On this episode of Team Building Saves the World.
Say you've got a team of 8 people. What would happen if 4 of them didn't come to work tomorrow? You don't get in their way over something like a coffee break, and honestly, I really dislike the term soft skill because it makes them sound fluffy and unimportant. You don't have to have them over for Sunday dinner every week. It doesn't have to be that way.
Although occasionally, would it hurt? Hello, team. It's me, your old friend Rich Riddensland, host of Team Building Saves the World, the show where I speak to thought leaders from around the world, discussing variable strategies and tools to help you and your team build a better work environment. And today, let's talk about living on the front lines, employee engagement, and its impact on the rest of the business with the co-founder and chief engagement officer of Take Charge Learning, Laura Sukorokoff. But first, I have to share some love with my supporters at Team Bonding. If your team is ready to experience teamwork through the power of play, then visit teambonding.com to learn more. Now, team, please join me in welcoming my guest, the author of It's Not Them, It's You, Why Employees Break Up with Their Managers and What to Do About It, Laura Sukorokoff. Laura!
It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you, too. Please tell me I got that last name right.
You did, and I'm going to give you full-on props for that because it is many syllables and letters long. So folks who are listening, It is not an easy name to just nail on the first go-round. So, Rich, I don't know, did you practice it?
I did. I'll be honest with you. Before you came on, like a good half hour. Sukorokoff. Like a choo-choo train in my head.
Just to channel their best Russian accent and kind of like.
Don't tell me to do that because I will do this. This is something I am good at and will continue to try to do. Laura, that's not what this podcast is about because I don't need to show that off. Let's start off by letting everybody know a bit more about you, where you come from, and how it was you got started in this industry.
Sure. Okay. So let's just say that it's a long story that I will shorten into as short as I can. To begin, where do I come from? Well, I live on Vancouver Island in Canada, just off the coast of Vancouver, for those of you who know where that is. So it sounds like a small place, but it's actually a big island. And I live in my own personal version of paradise. So I'm in a place called Qualicum Beach. It's right there in the name, folks. I live at the beach.
You said beach. Yep.
I hear the sounds of eagles and sea lions all the time. There are whales that play out in the water here.
Nice.
It's just, for me, it is a wonderful place to live. And I'm fortunate because my business is primarily virtual. So that allows me to be able to live in this beautiful part of the world. And then the other part of your question was, how did I get here?
Yep.
And that's the long story, which I won't share all the details with, but I have had a very long career in organizational learning and development. I fell into that career decades ago. And I have to tell you, I kind of found where I was supposed to be. It was serendipitous. It was completely a mistake, but it ended up being the most perfect mistake for me. And so I have been working in that field for a long time. I've trained a lot of people on a lot of things, but my sweet spot is in the area of soft skills, especially employee engagement. And what I found, and this was accidental, what I found was, over the past few years, it seemed like there were a lot of people coming to me, talking to me about why they wanted to quit their jobs, why they did quit their jobs, and, how could I support them? And it was almost like they were either looking for help to get through it, or even if they started by saying, can you help me by sharing with your network, or, do you know people who I might get a job with? It ended up being almost like a little bit of a therapy session. I'm no therapist, but, just this needing to talk to somebody about what they went through with their manager. And so truly, Rich, this started to weigh on me, and I thought, what is going on here? like, this is kind of bad. And I realized that if I put it all together, I had, by this point, probably a half a dozen people that all had the same reason for leaving.
Right.
And I kind of started doing some research into it and realized that honestly, managers are the number one people or reason people leave their jobs.
Mm.
They're also the number one reason people stay in their jobs. So it's an interesting thing because, if you look at the data, 70% of the variance, 70% of the reasons why people stay or go boils down to their manager. And I thought this was kind of fascinating. So I wrote the book, I quit my job, started my companies, and have really been digging into this idea of helping managers connect with the people on their teams such that they can support them, that they can guide them, that they can have good relationships, and you know what, that they can make work a nice place to be. So that is, for me, that's been my capstone project, if you will. This has been it is, I'm so lucky. I found my sense of purpose. This is where I'm meant to be. And now I'm just carrying my crusade forward, I guess, if you will.
So just to let my audience out there know, we have some stats here to share. 71% of Americans and Canadians feel now is a good time to find a new job, and almost 50% of them are actively looking. Is that accurate?
Yep, according to the data that's out there.
Okay.
So I believe that was from Gallup, and Gallup does work. They are recognized gurus in employee engagement. So if you can trust any source, that's a source you can trust. And what that says to me, Rich, is we have a problem. We have this is a real problem. When you have even half of your workforce looking for another job, just think about that. Just put yourself in that position. Say you've got a team of 8 people. What would happen if 4 of them didn't come to work tomorrow? What would happen if 4 of them even just dropped off their resignation letters to you? That, with the pace of business, with the amount of work that people are doing all the time, you can see that if you lose half your team, that is a big problem.
Yeah, let's talk about some of that if we can. What are some of the impacts that can happen when these people decide to leave? Because we're are we still in the throes of the Great Resignation?
I think that Great Resignation wave has kind of stabilized a little bit. Okay. Having said that, though, we've still got half of the workforce ready to jump if a different opportunity comes along.
That's stabilizing, what happened?
Right. Honestly, I think work has changed. I think people's attitudes toward work has changed. My parents, I remember the first time I quit my job, and this was a long time ago, folks. This was, back in the day. And my parents were horrified, thinking I would never be able to get another job. Well, now it is commonplace, Rich, commonplace for people to switch jobs after only a year or two. So this means that we're living in kind of a hamster wheel of constant turnover in organizations.
Right.
And, HR people will tell you what the stats are. But if you are in an organization where you're losing, say, where you have a turnover rate of 28%, that means that, at any given time, more than a quarter of your people are churning through. So to get back to your question, although we may not be seeing the wave of quitting that we were before, what we are seeing is that, again, a lot of people are open to new opportunities and they're not afraid to go after those new opportunities. But what keeps people in their jobs hasn't really changed. If you think about it, why do people stay in a job?
Yeah.
And so they're looking for those things in their job, like, well, the number one thing is their manager. So do I like my manager? Does my manager treat me well? And then they are looking for things like, do I get fairly compensated? What is the benefits package like? What about my team members? Do I get along well with them? And they are looking for flexibility at work. And so we went through that period of not quiet quitting, of a lot of people quitting, and some noisily, in fact. And we are now seeing that sort of stabilize because companies, where they can, are a little bit more flexible in where people can work and even sometimes in when people work. So they're willing to look at different hours. They're willing to at least talk about it. But we are seeing a different attitude towards work. And I believe that that has helped people to stay in their jobs a bit longer. We're now seeing what's called quiet quitting.
Right.
And that is people not so much leaving their jobs, but doing basically what they have to do.
Yeah, just giving up while they're in it. Yeah, doing the bare minimum, keeping their eye towards the horizon, ready for that next thing to come along. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did an entire episode of it when the phenomenon first hit social media's consciousness.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I have been in that situation in my work. I've been overall in my lifetime, I have been a person that is motivated by challenge, by having like a really cool project to work on. And it's not unusual for me to work overtime, to work extra days, 6-7 days a week just to get it done, because I'm really enjoying myself. But I have always thought, with that, when you have somebody who's so willing to do all of that, you don't get in their way over something like a coffee break, and I had it happen. I was at a job once where I took my lunch break. I and a couple of team members, we were working very hard on something, and we took our lunch at 2:00 because we were in the flow, right?
Okay.
So we took our lunch at 2:00, and it just so happened that on the way back from lunch, we stopped at a Starbucks and picked up our coffees. And when we came in the door, one of the senior leaders of this quite, I'll say, traditional manufacturing organization looked at us and went straight to our boss and complained about how we took a 45-minute coffee break. And when my boss hit me with that, I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I just said, "Look, did he happen to notice that we at noon and at 1 were still at our desks working hard, working all the way through? We took our lunch break at 2:00.
Right.
So what I was told by my boss was, and what our team was told was, "Okay, well, I understand that you did that, but please, be aware that people are watching you." So the end result of that, Rich, was exactly what you'd expect, which is, okay, I wasn't a clock watcher before, but I'm sure a clock watcher now. So guess what? I'm coming in at 8:30. I'm leaving at 4:30. I'm taking my 1 hour and my 2:15s. And, to heck with all of you. This is the way it is. And so there goes the productivity. There goes the motivation. And so those are those, like, when you have a team that is engaged and inspired, and you dampen it with something like that, what you tell them, in other words, you're punishing them. What do you expect? And that's where things like quiet quitting come in. When you are imposing too much on people and then you're not appreciative of it, people go, fine, then I'm going to just do the least I have to do.
They're expecting me to be something, and I can give them that because that's far easier than the effort I've already been putting out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there goes your productivity as well. Like it may still be there, but it's certainly dampened. So yeah.
I mean, because we're looking at, I'm not sure the specific numbers. Maybe you can help me out. But when somebody finally does quit, when they leave a position, how many thousands of dollars are we looking at for an individual to be replaced? And then for that person to get up to speed enough in their job that it's almost like that person never left. Because we're talking about not only the training of the individual, the finding of the individual, training them, and then the cost in what we're losing until they're able to perform at the level the person who first had that job does.
I don't have exact numbers either off the top of my head. To me, Rich, and somebody in your audience might know this better, would love if they put comments on this or on this podcast or what have you. I think it's up to 150% of the salary, maybe even higher than that, is the cost of replacing somebody. Okay. So even, I had this conversation with the senior VP of an organization, and he was talking about replacing one of their frontline customer service people. So, whether you agree with this or not, unfortunately, customer service people on the front lines are typically the lowest paid. in an organization.
Sure.
Right? And so we were discussing how much it would cost to replace this person. And what he was focused on was the salary, but more to the point, the cost for the ads, the recruiting costs.
Yeah.
And he said, this is going to cost us quite a bit. It's X amount for recruiting. And I said, this is costing you an awful lot more than that.
Yeah.
And when he looked at me quite surprised, and I said, okay, firstly, you have, yes, the cost of recruiting.
Right.
And then you have the cost of all the time that your hiring managers, and oftentimes it's plural, it's hiring managers that are in on these interviews. So all of those people, it is their time spent in an interview versus on the floor or in the tasks that they're normally doing.
Right.
Then you have, exactly as you said, you have the loss of productivity from that person leaving. And so other team members have to try to pick up the slack. But you also have that loss of productivity after you have hired somebody as they ramp up to being able to do their task quickly and effectively. And that typically takes 9 months, a year. So it's not a fast ramp up,
Nope.
So the cost can be quite extraordinary. And of course, the higher up you go, the higher the costs are to cover this. And so when you're talking senior executives, it might cost you an awful lot more to replace somebody.
Right. And I want to get into that in just a second, Laura, but I hope you don't mind. I need to step away just for a brief second so I can tell my team out there about a company I am still very proud to be a part of, Team Bonding. Team Bonding was founded over 20 years ago with one simple question: how can employees have a great time while fostering strong, authentic bonds between people who work together? No matter where your company is located, Team Bonding offers powerful, engaging, custom team building events designed to get the best of your team anywhere in the world. They've created a catalog of innovative events using the power of play as a learning tool and tapping into the correlation of work and play. So whether it's scavenger hunts to Jeopardy or so many more, the team bonding of activities, whether they're live, virtual, or hybrid, maximizes the impact of team building with an accent on fun. So visit teambonding.com to schedule your event now. Team Bonding, when you want seriously fun results. And we are back talking to Laura about employee engagement. That's okay, Laura. You can say whatever you like, whenever you like. But here's the thing I want to get into. So many people, so many corporations that I have heard from, talked to, people I've met on the show, just like yourself, they have all of this money they're putting back into management level training and above. Why isn't that money going to helping the employee, to making that employee, benefit, to making that employee move up, help them get to a position where they can now sit over, another group and help them? Why is it we're spending all the money on the managers who are causing all the problems anyway?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to push back a little bit on that.
Please.
Because what I see is we are spending most of our money on senior leaders.
Okay.
They are going through, and it's great. I do not disagree with leadership training. I think that's very, very important. What's happening, though, in my observation, is it's not trickling down.
Okay.
So what we've got is a lot of investment at the top of the organization, and we kind of leave off that middle and lower levels. We're good about things like product knowledge, technical training, safety training. What we're not very good at is the soft skills aspects. And what we know is that these soft skills, which I really dislike the term soft skills because it makes them sound fluffy and unimportant, but they are anything but fluffy. They are so important. And do you know that I'm just going to look at a stat here.
Please.
The majority of managers do not receive any management training, as in training to lead people. And I'm looking at the stat right now, and that is 58% of managers do not receive people leading training. And so what happens is they are put into the role and they don't know what they're doing. The hardest part of their job is not the technical, not the task. It is the people management. And so we're leaving them there to just sink and try to figure it out. And that's a challenge because only 1 in 10 managers has the innate people management skills to do the job well. 9 out of 10 of them, 90% of the managers out there are really struggling. And
how many of them were moved up from like a sales position or an IT decision, whatever they were doing that was hands-on, that was their skill set. And now they're being told, you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to deal with the people who are doing that under you. Now it's, okay, do I keep doing my job, or is that now their job and I have to talk to them in doing their job?
It is really a common practice to reward people for doing their jobs well by promoting them into management. And that is great. I don't think that should change.
Right.
What I do think is we need to have some allowance for the people who don't want to lead other people. So can we have some sort of promotional track for them? And there are tech companies out there that are creating manager titled tracks without having the people leadership. So we need to, I think, explore those promotional opportunities for people who deserve the promotion but don't want to lead others. I also think we should reward them for having the knowledge of themselves that they don't want to lead others. Because we're kind of conditioned to think, oh gosh, I kind of suck if I don't want to lead other people.
And if you as a company are looking to raise that person up anyway, why not keep them moving in a direction they're already strong in?
Yeah, precisely. So it makes sense that way, but I understand that within organizational hierarchy, it's hard to determine how can we reward people without putting them in that the traditional management track. So, okay, given that we promote them, they accept the promotion, now we have them in this job. And you said something really important just a moment ago, and that is, I know how to do my tasks. So now what am I supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to do these tasks? Is somebody else supposed to do them for me? Like, and then how do I ask them to do these tasks? And oh, geez, really? And I used to work with them.
Yeah.
These are my buddies.
Yeah.
And now I'm supposed to be the boss of them. And that, even just that, like that very first step of moving from individual contributor to boss, that's a big step. And we're not supporting people through that. And I truly believe that we need to have training for our new managers. In fact, I mean, I have a course, my company offers a course, and we have taught it. And the people who take it are so grateful just to have that conversation about moving from peer to boss. So we got to start there. And then we have to teach them more than just, this is how you do a performance appraisal. This is the reporting that we need. You know, those are technical tasks that are important for managers to do. But we also need to understand that they need people skills.
Yeah.
And they don't naturally have it. So we need to invest more in training them. It pays off. It pays off in engagement. It pays off in increased productivity, in increased customer satisfaction, increased employee engagement. And guess what, folks? That leads to bottom line improvement. So it's worth the investment.
How much of this involves one-on-one conversation?
To me, it is the cornerstone of management practice. There are a number of reasons for that. The first, of course, is it provides a communication conduit.
Okay.
And that is really important. The number one thing on employee surveys so often, or employee engagement surveys rather, is we have poor communication in our company. Okay, well, so if we have one-on-ones on a regular, frequent, and consistent basis, the flow of communication will be there. So that's huge. And communication is something that is actually pretty easy for people to understand that they need to improve. It's pretty easy to implement, put it into place. So let's do that with one-on-ones. And then if we take one-on-ones and only focus on tasks, which is what happens at least 50% of the time.
Right.
So if you think about this, I think it's somewhere around 50% of the companies out there have one-on-ones on a regular basis within their organizations. And only about half of those talk about anything other than task.
Okay.
But the whole idea of a one-on-one conversation is to develop a relationship with the employee. And this isn't to say you have to be their best friends. You don't have to have them over for Sunday dinner every week. It doesn't have to be that way.
Although occasionally, would it hurt? Just have somebody over.
I don't think so. I mean, look at this company that you're representing, Team Bonding. Like this is about having people develop relationships at work. Folks, this is what keeps them at work. And it begins and ends and is supported in the middle with that relationship with their manager. And so if you can sit down with a team member, I mean, I like to promote once a week for a conversation for about 30 minutes. I know, I could just hear it. I could just hear the listeners going, oh, well, she doesn't work in my company. I get it. But if you can do once a week, maybe twice a month, or even at the very least, once per month, have a 30-minute conversation. And in that 30 minutes, take some time to develop the personal. You don't have to get too deep. Go as deep as your employees want to go, but allow a little peek into their lives and a peek into your life, right? And it could be something as simple as, hey, Rich, so what'd you do last weekend? Oh, really? Oh, you went to a softball tournament? Oh, you know what? My kid plays softball. I love being out at the park. What's your favorite thing about being at the park? That is as easy as it is to get this conversation going.
Nice.
And then once you've had an opportunity to just have those moments, ask your team member, what's on your mind? What's challenging you? What are you loving this week? What are you needing support with? And you can start getting into some of those task-related things. Make sure you have time for you, the manager, to share what's on your mind. And then I also advocate, I think this is a really important thing for motivating your people, and that is to include a little element of professional development in your conversation. So I'm looping back to where you were before with that question about training, right? When they're talking about what's challenging them, why not ask a question like, okay, what kind of support do you need with that? Is there any learning that we can help you out with? And it may be that there's no budget for expensive training programs.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. But professional development does not come only from training programs. Professional development also comes from things like reading articles, watching videos. There are MOOCs, massive open online courses that people can actually access university level education for free or very cheap. So there are companies like Coursera, edX. You can look those up and get all kinds of training or all kinds of education in that way.
Is this something you would recommend all the way up and down the corporate ladder?
Absolutely. I've taken courses myself. I've taken things like marketing, things like artificial intelligence. I've taken business strategy courses and things like that.
Right.
You can take certificate programs for a cost, or you just do them for free if you just audit these courses and just learn the material. So anyway, there are all kinds of avenues for professional development. I might also give a shout out to networking, because joining a professional association and being active in that association can help employees really learn a lot, not just about their roles, but also about the industry that they're in. So this is a really important thing too. And I think these are kind of easy things for managers to be able to offer. And then if there's more, maybe by listening to your employees, by asking the right questions and really doing some good listening, maybe you'll pick up on things. Is there a theme here? Is there a pattern? Are several members of your team struggling with certain skill sets? Or, expectations. And in which case, should you maybe invest some of your development budget in some sort of course for them, right? This is where companies like mine come in, like with Take Charge Learning. We have companies that bring us in, for example, for their new managers. I talked about that before. So we come in and we do a 2-day course for new managers, teaching them how to go everything from making that transition to boss right through to having effective one-on-one conversations and some of the communication, collaboration, teamwork, those sort of soft skills that they will need, including delegation, which is another big thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it makes sense to bring somebody in. You talked about the front lines before.
Right.
And we have a customer service training course as well that we call Proactive Service. And courses like this, when you invest in training, you're looking at it on a bit of a larger scale potentially, but this is also something where people can be taken out of their day-to-day and really focus in on their own development. And that tends to pay off big time. So anyway, enough of a pitch that way. I just truly believe that making those sorts of investments in your managers and in your team members pays off in engagement, in productivity, in loyalty, and in retention.
How possible is it for the flow of that conversation to turn? How possible is it for, say, an employee, that frontline worker, to be able to look to their manager and just say, can we sit down and have a conversation? Can we, there's something that I think you need to know about. How would you recommend to that person who might be listening right now thinking, I would love if they would do this for us, but nobody's taking the effort from their end down? How would you recommend to that person that they turn it around?
Yeah, okay. This is a question I get all the time. I'm going to give you a bit of a long-winded answer just to set up the why this might happen. Because some people might be thinking, okay, this seems fairly straightforward and it makes sense. And it's not a huge budget item. And it's, why don't more companies do this?
Right.
There are two things I get pushback on when I am presenting this, if I'm out speaking or if I'm training managers on one-on-ones. The first pushback thing is, I don't have the time. Okay. I get it. Because holy smokes, managers do a lot of work.
Sure.
Okay. Everybody is doing a lot of work.
Yep.
So I get the time aspect. And what I know from personal experience, what I know from experiences shared with me, what I know from data and studies, what I know from my own work is that investing time in these conversations is worth it. It pays off at the end. It's an investment up front, but you have better communication flow. You have better trust that is built in your team. Right. And therefore, if something's going to go wrong, you get wind of it before it becomes a big problem. People aren't scared to bring something forward. They trust that you're there to help. So you've got the benefit of knowing what's going on as it's going on. So communication in that, immediacy. Right. Do not underestimate the value of that. So that's one thing. And when I start pushing back on that, when I start saying, my experience with managers as they go through this, as they implement regular weekly one-on-ones, is that two things happen. The first thing is that they spend less time. They find that they maybe sometimes don't even need 30 minutes. Maybe they only need 15 minutes to do a quick catch up. Yeah. And the second thing that happens is their people feel more empowered to go ahead and, try more, achieve more, do more. Right, so now when I dig a little bit further beyond that first point of pushback, where we typically go next is, I don't know what to say. And so there you go. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's a biggie. I can appreciate it. Right. Remember what I said before about 90% of the managers out there do not have the innate people management skills that they need. Yeah. So they literally don't know how to start this. And I'm going to say a couple of things that might help. The first thing is please know, all you managers out there who might be thinking this very thing, please know that the quality of your question is not as important as whether you have asked the question. In
Right.
other words, just do it. Just start it.
Yep.
Okay. Don't be scared of it. Just jump in and ask the questions. And your questions need to be geared towards the people. So, for example, how can I support you? What's challenging you right now? Okay. What have you already tried? How can I support you? What do you need from me? So just put yourself in their shoes and what would you want to hear? The second thing that I'll offer is on my website. It is www.cchangelearning.com. So that's the letter C, the word change, learning.com.
Okay.
You will find a free resource. You can download that template and there's some starter questions on it. So start with that.
Great.
Yeah. And then the other thing you talked about, so knowing that for those of you who want to get these conversations going with your managers, know that these two forces are pushing against the start of the conversation.
Right.
So ask for it and approach it maybe this way by saying, in my previous jobs, I had the benefit of regular one-on-one conversations with my boss. Do we have a policy of that here in this organization? If not, can we set this up?
Nice.
This is a really important thing for me. But understand that they may not know what you need from these conversations. So be prepared to offer, this is what we've done in the past. Or if you've never done this before in any organization you've been in, you could say something, you could start your dialogue by saying something like, I've learned about one-on-one conversations, and I think this is something that could be really beneficial for us. Can we please implement this between the two of us or amongst the team?
Right.
Can we do this?
Yeah.
And see how it goes.
Way back in the day, we're talking many, many years ago, I would do corporate work as a way to supplement my income as a professional actor, performer, so on and so forth. And I had a job building corporate security where I was finally given that middle management position. They liked what I did. I was there long enough. They knew that I had what they thought it took to get the job done. So they made me an assistant manager under the manager who was going out on maternity leave. And the objective was that she would train me in everything I would need to know before she went off on maternity leave. And then we could just go from there. And it would be like a nice, smooth transition, no problems. She left 2 weeks early. She went into labor 2 weeks before her expected due date. And I stepped in. I started doing everything she had trained me up until that point to keep things going. A month later, I finally get a call because we were a third party company working for the corporate client. I get a phone call from my company saying, how come you haven't done the weekly building reports for a month? To which my only answer was, what weekly building reports? I hadn't gotten there yet. And if anybody had just come and told me that this is what they wanted, once they told me what it was a simple thing to do. And I could easily do it from that point forward. But by the time she was coming back from maternity leave, my boss came to me and was like, we're going to move you to another building where you're going to be at this middle management level, but this client is now kind of tired of you. Because it took you so long to catch up. And I was like, no one told me. If anybody had just said to me, where's my report, this would not have been an issue.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I mean, okay, Rich, in the United States, your maternity leave is 6 weeks, correct?
About that, yes.
Yeah. And you know what it is in Canada? 12 to 18 months. So, you can imagine the pain that you would have been under had you been up here.
When my daughter was born, do you know how long I got off?
Oh no, how long?
1 week. That was all the vacation time I had accrued.
Yeah, good luck to you going back the next week, because that's when they start really not sleeping.
Yes,
just saying.
Yes. Believe me, her mother made me aware of that on a weekly basis.
It is so challenging being a manager. I truly believe that we really need to pay more attention to our managers. They are the most important factor in this whole cycle of employee engagement, retention, productivity, profitability, customer satisfaction. I truly believe we need to support them more, including things like having a backup plan. We know that babies sometimes come early.
Yep.
Maybe we need to push training forward. Now I know that never happens. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Hey, I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks. Oops, I forgot to say all this, and I'm sending emails from, Italy or what have you. I know that happens. I do. But if we can make a practice of supporting it, right? Here are the things that you need to know. And even were you to be able to say, to have the wherewithal to say, okay, I'm stepping into this role early. What are all the expectations from the clients? Who else is my resource now?
Right.
Okay. And then that person or those people who are then the new resources need to be able to step in and support. There needs to be a culture of that in the organization, regardless of level. Honestly, these things that we're talking about apply at every level of the organization. You need to have that culture of asking good questions, providing thoughtful answers, listening and learning. And to me, I kind of roll it all into one overarching statement. And that is this idea that people want respect. They want respect from their managers. They want respect from their organizations. They want to feel heard and understood, and they want their work to be valued.
Nice.
So if you are feeling that you're not really being heard, that you're not really being understood, before you start saying, that's it, I got to quit, step back and think, can I have a conversation with my manager such that we can develop this pattern of one-on-ones? And then I will have a place to share my voice.
Nice.
And I will have a relationship built so that I can be understood and trusted and valued. And then if that could happen, would I like where I work? And
love it.
Yeah. So there you go. So for me, that's the overarching thing.
And remember, you heard it here from Laura, team. If you're a manager, you have a right to a voice too. You ask
100%.
your higher ups if you can start implementing all of this for yourselves.
Yep. I think it needs to be pervasive throughout an organization.
Nice.
And not just have one-on-ones to talk about tasks. I'm talking about have one-on-ones such that you are getting to know the people who work in the company. It is that simple,
Laura, I love it. One more time, can you give that web address so they can come and find you and your questionnaire?
Yes. So I'm happy to share this information. We can put it in the show notes, if you will. I will tell you right now to go to my website. It is so that's the letter C, cchangelearning.com. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll find it under my name, which you nailed so well, which is Laura Sukorokoff. Look me up on LinkedIn. Please connect with me, and I would absolutely love to continue the conversation with you there. Oh, and I just want to give a shout out to my other company. We do more or less the same thing, which is soft skills training, but we angle it towards the skilled trades. So that other company website is takechargelearning.com.
Excellent.
And you will find me there as well. So if you are somebody in the skilled trades, please connect with me there as well, and we can have great conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of which, team out there, please give one more time a big round of applause to Laura Sukorokoff. And now, Laura, I hope you're ready because it's time to learn more about you as we dive into my speed round.
Okay, well, I'm kind of, excited to
Sorry, I was doing some fun things there. What were you saying?
I am excited / afraid of this. So, I mean, okay, you said before that, what team bonding does. What one thing I love about team bonding is it allows fun to come into work.
Yes.
We can learn a lot via play.
Yes.
And we can connect via play, and things get so great. I have friends that work in the play area, so I'm super excited about about team bonding and about the philosophy of play. And now, okay, I'm ready to play.
Okay, let's play. Here's how this is going to work. For 60 seconds, I'm going to be playing some music. That just keeps me in track of how much time I have left. During that time, I'm going to ask you a series of completely easy, innocuous questions. Your objective is try to answer as many of them as quickly as you can in that 60 seconds. I don't know how competitive you're feeling, but we have hit 15 this season.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard one of your podcasts. Gee, I can't remember which one it was. I listened to a few, and it was the last one. The best record I had up to that point was 12. So I'm shooting for between 12 and 15. So,
okay, all right.
Let's do it.
Let's see what we can do. As soon as you start hearing music, I'm going to ask the question, and away we go. What's your name?
Laura Sukorokoff.
Do you have any kids?
I have one kid, but she's an adult kid now.
Do you have any pets?
I do. I have 2 dogs, Doug and Murray.
If you could ask your dogs a question and get an answer, what would that question be?
Ooh, I know. This is my question that I want to ask them. Can you actually understand every word that I'm saying?
Nice. What's a good book you've read recently?
Okay, I'm reading a book right now called Super Communicators, and it is by Charles Duhigg, and I'm really enjoying it, so I recommend that one.
Okay.
Folks.
What is the most courageous thing you've ever done?
Ooh, you know what? Starting my own business.
Who would you like to see play you in the movie of your life?
Oh my goodness. Let's go with Charlize Theron.
Nice.
She's tall and beautiful, and I like to think I'm the same.
If you had to live anywhere other than where you do now, where would it be?
Oh, that's a toughie because I live in paradise. But if I were going to move elsewhere, it would be someplace tropical, maybe Hawaii.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Laura, you got 9.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
That's
okay. No, it's just especially telling you about your favorite book right now. As soon as I saw you turn around to look for the book, I knew I'd lost you. But 9 is a very good answer because you gave us very important information about you. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for coming on. I hope you had as much fun being here as I had.
Rich, I want to thank you for making this such a fun experience. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank Team Bonding and for introducing me to the Team Building Saves the World podcast. And thank you to everybody who is listening. I really appreciate you taking some time and hearing what I have to say. And I look forward to, maybe continuing the conversation later.
I'd love that. I would love it. But for now, we have to say our farewells. So for all you out there, my team, that's it. We're wrapping up yet another episode of Team Building Saves the World. If you've enjoyed the episode, whether you're new to the podcast or an old fan of the show, please be sure to share it with everyone that you know. Whether they're a coworker, a friend, a family member, it really helps us to share all this vital information. You can find out all about us, including all past episodes, at teambonding.com/podcast. You can also find us wherever you find your favorite podcast. Whether it's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you go to listen, my friends, we will be there. And don't forget to look for us on all the social medias at Team Bond Podcast. Leave me that message. Tell me whether you like the show. If you have a question, if you had a follow-up you want to know about for a future topic, please. That's how you can be a great part of this team. So before we say our farewells for this episode of Team Building Saves the World, never forget, my friends, if you are within the sound of my voice, you're on my team now, and I am forever going to be on yours. So long, team. I'll see you next time.
It's been said that you learn more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. So why not put your coworkers to play with the help of the team at Team Bonding? Team Bonding was founded over 20 years ago with one simple question. How can employees have a great time while fostering strong, authentic bonds between people who work together? Their catalog of innovative events includes scavenger hunts, Jeopardy, and much more. Each activity, whether live, virtual, or hybrid, maximizes the impact of team building with an accent on fun. Visit teambonding.com to schedule your event now. Team Bonding, when you want seriously fun results.